although most people don't die from dengue fever. The biggest threat, and I got this from Dermot Campbell-Lendrum at WHO, he said is the Donald Rumsfeld effect. It's the unknown unknown. That you may well get some emerging infection, particularly as a result of changing biodiversity patterns, animal reservoirs. I mean, remember, when I qualified, no one knew about HIV. In fact, I saw in the Royal Free Intensive Care Unit, when I was a locum SHO, a case of acquired immune deficiency that got written up, a 34-year-old guy in 1981. And that was one of the first case reports of AIDS. I didn't write it, somebody else did. And I wouldn't have imagined that I was seeing a disease that was going to kill 50 million people. So things will happen. And there are certainly a lot of emerging and re-emerging zoonoses across the world, which you read about almost every week. Heat waves, the heat island effect of urban living we're aware of. Centre of London is hotter than outside. The heat wave in Europe, everyone quotes this because it was written up, but there was another heat wave in Russia just a couple of years ago. I don't know if anyone has analysed the impact on mortality. I'm really interested because there's so little data on what goes on in, for example, North India every year on population mortality rates, because people aren't monitoring it by and large. And the other area is, of course, work and occupational health, because as your wet bulb globe temperature goes up above a certain level, your ability to work goes down very dramatically. And Tord Kjellstrom has got a lot of interesting data on this, and showing, I mean, now actually most construction in India is done at night under floodlights because it's too hot to work in the day for many months of the year. This is the only slide I've got on allergies, but there's some interesting stuff about as CO2 goes up, not heat, as your CO2 rises to 500, 600 beyond, you get a change in the release of pollen. You also get changing patterns of smogs, which are going to have effects on respiratory illness. But again, the big thing, there's some interesting stuff that as CO2 goes up, plant-pest relationships change, and actually plants become much more vulnerable to being attacked by pests. So again, that could affect food security. Right, last message is, I'm interested in changing behaviour, and I do a lot of work on working through women's groups in poor countries in Asia and Africa, measuring outcomes like maternal and newborn survival. And I've been surprised at the way in which groups can be, I call them wicked solutions, tackling wicked problems like poverty, which is non-linear. You can come up with non-linear solutions as well. And you know, we know that we've had to change behaviour over the last 30 or 40 years, and I think Ian will touch on this. We know that we can change our smoking patterns, our weaning patterns, but we have, as Ian will talk about, a huge problem with obesity. But can we do something about it? And can we do something about it in our societies in the way that traditional human societies have done something about it in groups? I work in Bangladesh. We've done a lot of work there in groups, also in Nepal. To be topical, this is today's front page of the Bangladesh Daily Star. You can't see the date, but it is today's, because my Bangladeshi wrote to me, collaborator, and you can probably see down there, maybe you can't. Front page, 60%, I can't even read it. 60% increase in something or other to do with sea level. And basically, they picked up on a report which, from Stefan Rahmsdorf, saying, which was just released in Paris yesterday, saying the prediction in 2007 of the IPCC was that by now, sea level rise would be about 2 millimetres per year. And it's actually 3.2 millimetres per year, which is a 60% increase. And that was the projection only, how long ago? 10 years ago? 8 years ago. So if we're so wrong on looking at our exponential projections, what's going to happen? This is from Atiq Rahman in Bangladesh, who projected, 1 metre of sea level rise, which could be by the middle of the century, will take out a lot of the southern states of Bangladesh, which are already seeing a lot of salinisation of drinking water. And, you know, 400 years is not that far away. And certainly if exponential effects start to happen and kick in, and we don't know how fast that's going to happen, I think, am I right, if everything melts on the planet, it's 120 meters of sea level? So this is about 70 meters. I don't know, does anyone come from Norwich? Or Yorkshire, or well, almost everywhere. It's the end of geography. Fukuyama talks about the end of history. This is the end of geography as we know it. And I'm sure in any of your countries, wherever you come from, 3 billion people or something, or most of the planet live within 60 kilometers of a coastline. And it's already happening in New York and stuff. So we've got to be aware that this is going to happen. And historically, the last 5,000 years has been an unusually climatically stable period. And we're going to hit a lot of climate instability. So it is a bit worrying, chaps, but we've got to do something about it. And perhaps in the discussion we can talk very positively about that.